I'll give you the backstory in a sec. I basically landed my drone in a military base.
On purpose?
No, not on purpose. I wasn't flying.
What's happening, folks? Welcome back to the Shove It podcast. Today, esteemed guest, Mr. Andy Burgess.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here. Yeah. It's wonderful to be here in Belfast. Yeah, you better.
Andy came along to shoot a documentary for his YouTube channel and said to me, could you come and help me with logistics, getting around the country, all that sort of stuff. And we've been doing that for the last 2 days and that's been really good fun. So I said to him, yeah, of course, but can we sit down and have a quick chat? So part of what I'm trying to do, I guess, with this series of stuff is talk to creative people who inspire me or I find interesting, and I kind of want to discuss their story. And Andy's one of those people. So where did we meet?
We met, was it 2019, I want to say, at Power of Video. That's right. Here in Belfast. I'm like, was it like pre or post pandemic?
4 years ago.
Yeah. Wait, was that 20? See, that's scary.
Yeah, that is.
I feel like a couple of years were taken out. But yeah, 2019, Belfast, we met like 5 minutes before we were due to go on stage together and talk together.
That's right, yeah.
With Drew.
That's right.
And that was super fun. And the talk went really well and we all bounced off each other really well. And I was like, we don't know.
No, we hadn't. And we never met. Yeah. Like we had never met each other ever. And basically, Andy was working with Joby and Manfredo at that point. Is that right?
Yeah.
And I was helping the guys at Power Video, and they said, look, we're going to do this thing working with brands. So could you sit on the stage and talk with these other guys? So it was Andy and Drew, and Drew was there from Lytra. And we basically just sat down and talked about how to create social media content with brands. And that's kind of where that came from. So I guess the reason I wanted to talk to you about this was Andy's got kind of an interesting background in that his career, we'll call it career, no? That's what we were talking about earlier.
I feel very
the audacity.
Sure.
Okay. So Andy's his career has come from a creative background in music. And then in a way, I guess you fell into video production through Snapchat.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
then that's taken you on this journey to where you've got to YouTube, where you're now running a documentary channel called Fault Line. So how does that start with Snapchat, and what got you to doing video?
Yeah, it's a very weird and long journey. I guess we can take it through and we can stop and you can ask me questions along the way. Because it's very weird. How, now my day to day is essentially managing a team whilst we make documentaries, and I'm trying to do this rigorous journalism whilst trying to make cool videos on YouTube. But I started out making videos on Snapchat. I was in the music industry. I was playing in bands and doing session drumming for, I don't know, from the age of 16 up until 22. And it was fun. It's cool playing in bands with people, but there's band politics and just can somebody do this show? No, they can't. And just it's a lot, and there isn't much from it. But I was always creative, and I wanted an reach for it. But and always liked film. Did a little bit of editing in the band. We were doing a lot on social media and sharing all our videos as they were coming out. So I was kind of involved in that process. And then I was just on a trip in Switzerland in 2016. And I was like, oh, this is really beautiful here. I want to document this. But I didn't know how to use a camera, and all I had was my phone, and Snapchat was pretty big at the time. So I was like, okay, well, why don't I just make a Snapchat story out of this, but try to make a narrative throughout it. And it kind of just snowballed from there. I just kind of got obsessed with the app. I mean, we can go for it, but
to choose as well. My knowledge of Snapchat is very limited. I was asking Andy in the van earlier, how does it even work? But it's not at that time when you weren't getting Instagram, you weren't getting a follower count and all this sort of stuff. So you were getting noticed through views, and that's the only numerical value I think you could put on it. Is that right?
Yeah, for sure. And because Snapchat at the time was just stories. This was before Instagram had Instagram stories as well. I think a couple of months after I started doing it, Instagram launched stories. So Snapchat was big in 2014 to maybe 2017. So I got in right at the end of this. And I just started doing it because I was enjoying it. I didn't know there was Snapchat creators. I was just like, oh, this is fun. And I was just like playing with it.
So how many people were watching when you started doing it?
I don't know, for like the first like 9 months, probably like between, I don't know, like 15 to 40. Because like I was saying earlier, in like November, I went to London to meet another Snapchatter, and like we like collabed, she like shouted me out. And I think like, I remember coming on, I was living in Bristol at the time, I was getting the train back from London, and I had like 100 or 150 people like viewing my Snapchat story. And I was like, oh my God, like this is insane. And it's like so funny to think about.
And that's nothing. Like,
yeah, exactly.
If you got 100 views on a story on Instagram now, you'd be gutted.
Yeah. So it's just like, this is wild. But I was just like super into it, and just like when I was working this marketing job at the time, I was in Bristol. I was like, this is dull and boring. I would leave based on like when the sun was setting. If it was like getting to winter and the sun was going to set at 4, I was like, I don't care. I'm out the door because I need to make a Snapchat story. And they're like, what is this guy doing? And I was like, yeah, I'm doing this. Yeah. And then I moved to New York at the start of 2017. It was originally just to take like a trip with my friend for 3 months, and I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna make a Snapchat story every day. But these were like vlogs. I was like trying to edit them in app, and like a lot of people were doing comedy, people were doing art. I was like, what's my thing? And it was essentially a travel vlog. But every day I was learning to make a new video, and I could start over again. And I was just doing it every day, and it got some attention. And a couple of months later, I was like kind of in with these like other Snapchat creators, working with brands, snappers.
Happy Monday, Snapchat. I'm with Diana and Nick. Quick life update. Prepare to watch me and Nick dance.
Like my Snap code got put up in Times Square because I did a collab with NASDAQ, which was like insane.
I love how casual you're throwing those things out as well. I don't even know what snap code is. I'm assuming
it's like a QR code, like a QR code. This is like with the Snapchat logo.
I have one video, all right, of me walking up a mountain, and my brother was recording audio and filming me. I didn't know he was doing it, but I was laved up years ago, and it's me going, I don't know how this fucking Snapchat thing works. Like someone's granddad, you know, like I had no idea. When I met you as well, we got talking really briefly at Power Video, and I felt like the journey you took with Snapchat was very similar to what I was doing on Instagram. Yeah. And we were doing them sort of parallel with each other. Yeah. And you were saying earlier in the van, like, how are you building these, how are you basically bodging these stories together? And how has that helped you as you've moved forward through your career?
Yeah, okay. I guess maybe then it's good to give some context of what like Snapchat was like as an app if you don't know it. Because like on Instagram stories, I think from maybe day one, you were able to upload footage.
No, you weren't.
No? Okay.
Stories was the same.
Okay, fine.
So you had to do it in-app as well.
Oh, okay, right.
That's what I'm saying. I think we were bodging the same way.
Okay, so we were bodging the same way. Okay. I feel like Instagram got the upload feature like sooner, because I remember seeing like Jesse Driftwood doing stories, and I was like, okay, this guy is like, it's a different level. He's doing it on his camera. With Snapchat, if you uploaded, it would have these white borders. So I was like, no, that tells you that you're like faking it. So I would do stuff like, if I wanted to make a time lapse, I'd film a regular video of people walking across the street in New York, and you'd swipe over to a fast forward filter and it would just like speed it up. But I was like, that's not enough. I wanted to add music to all my tracks, and like you could only record for 10 seconds. So I would have a regular version of a track, a slow down version of a track, and a fast version of the track. So I would then like get out my phone, hit play on the slow version of the track.
So it's playing from your phone?
Playing from my phone, coming out the speaker on my phone, film the people walking across the road, speed it up, and then the track would be playing at regular speed. And then I could like sync it with the next clip. So the next clip that I filmed, I find the bit in the track, but in the normal version, I was like, okay, I've done the first 10 seconds. I start playing from 10 seconds in, and then I record. And then so like the music would flow from each individual snap.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, that's how it's like when you add music to like a track, right? And some B-roll. But I was doing it in Snapchat in all these weird hack ways. I had like a little Bluetooth remote so I could record video without holding my phone, like I had it on like a
Just
Gorilla
blowing
Pod.
people's minds with
Yeah,
real
people are
simple
like,
stuff,
what?
isn't it?
How? Yeah, and it's just like these weird ways to hack the app, and I think that's what got me attention. Was just like, oh, he's doing this quite differently to other people.
And you had no background in video, like, or well, maybe not. Like, you hadn't really
Not
done
really.
much of
No,
it.
no, no. Like I didn't know how to use a camera. I didn't go to film school. I didn't do any of that. So I was just like learning on the go, and it was like a very good, because I was making these videos daily. I'd set a thing that was like, for the whole year I'm going to do them daily, and it was teaching me to like live edit or to pre-think what the story was going to be. Like I wake up, I'm like, okay, the story is going to be, I don't know, like I'm going to go to Philadelphia and I'm going to do something fun. But I'm also uploading throughout the day. It's not like you upload at the end of the day, you upload throughout your day. Yeah. So you're having to like edit in your head, because I wasn't even using Premiere or Final Cut or anything at this point. I'm just like, I'm editing in my head. Okay, this is the shot I need. Next, I need to say this, and this is how the story flows. So I think that gave me a good understanding for like now making documentaries and like not knowing when to film what and like what I need.
You were doing Instagram. You'd come off the back of Snapchat. I think Snapchat was a funny little. It was a weird app. I mean, fair play for going for it. I never really gelled with it, but you did that. And you were doing Instagram. You were doing very similar stuff. You were working with brands like Joby and Manfrotto and all that sort of stuff. And you were dabbling at YouTube. You were doing your own YouTube at this point.
Yes.
What was your goal when you initially went into YouTube?
Like my process with like my relationship with YouTube has gone back a long way, and I was never really sure. Like in the early days, I used to put my Snapchats onto YouTube. I would try to upload them there. And I was
You were
like,
doing shorts then before anybody else was.
Yeah, essentially.
Just pioneering the internet.
There we go. Like,
the audacity.
I'll take that title. I would put them up, and I was like, oh, if I just have a cool title in front of it, this will work. This is in the era where like vlogging was a big thing, right? Like everyone who wanted to be a YouTuber wanted to be Casey Neistat, right? Like we're all inspired by him. I was like, okay, well, let me put him on YouTube. And then I always liked it, but I never wanted to dabble in YouTube too much because I was like, I don't do long form. I don't really get it. I just know how to use my phone. And yeah, like you were saying, throughout the years, I managed, like from like 2017 to like, I'd say 2019, I did a lot of traveling. Like a brand would be like, hey, let's go to Peru and just film your experience. I was like, cool, amazing, let's do that. And I like was playing with editing software. My Instagram stories got like more hyper edited. I was doing a lot of stuff there. And then I was trying to put stuff on YouTube. Like I was like working on longer form stuff. I can't remember like what one of my first videos was. I think I went to like Italy for a talk, maybe that year in 2019. And I was like, I've got 3 hours to kill near Venice before my flight. I've never been to Venice. Like I want to go to Venice and make a video. And I decided I was going to make a video on like why Venice is sinking. It's like I didn't want to just do like another travel video. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do a tiny bit of research on these. I'm going to film a bunch of on the ground stuff, and then I'll pick up the rest. So
that's where you started the style of YouTube videos. I'm pretty sure I've seen that video.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe it was a couple of months before. I'm jumping all around.
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't like much before that.
No, okay.
Roughly in that.
Yeah, it was that year. It was 2019. Okay. Sorry, I'm jumping back a little bit. Beginning of 2019, I had the opportunity to go on some reporting trips with my friend Yusuf, who runs a channel called Scene, which is a Snapchat-focused first-person documentary on the ground channel where like individuals just record stories with their phone and then they turn them in. They like then a bunch of journalists basically build those stories out into like pieces of content. It's like these are my first reporting trips. I would say like baptism of fire, going into Palestine, trying to understand the nuance between Palestine and Israel. And
I get that into a 15-second snap.
Well, yeah, no. So this was where we were like, I had at this point moved into using cameras, but I was in the process of flipping from vertical to horizontal.
Right. So you were shooting stuff vertically and
Yeah, so I was doing both at this point, and we're like, this story is going to be like a 16:9. It's going to be a 9:16. And anyway, I was just playing with these, and these were parts of the world that I'd never seen or experienced. And like, I remember vividly being in Kutupalong, which is a refugee camp in Bangladesh. It's like, I think it's the largest refugee camp in the world. And I was like, why don't I know about what's happening here? And I'm like, because the news, I don't engage with the news back home. I don't like, it's awful. I don't like it. But this is like a really important topic that I feel like people should know about. And at that point, I had been making all these videos where I'm traveling around, making these travel vlogs. And I was like, I think I could do something different here. I think I could put myself as the guide in my stories and share with like an audience, which is primarily like Western audience, what is happening in Bangladesh in these camps, and explain to them what's going on. So
at any point, are you questioning, your not your integrity, that because not only have you just waltzed into I'm making videos, now you're like, oh, I'm a journalist.
I was thrown into that, and I was very scared. Like that trip to Bangladesh, I don't know if I hosted anything. I think I let Yusuf do it, and I was like behind the camera. But I'd spent a couple of months with these guys as well in like LA working as they built out their company scene, and it really inspired me. And then so the next few months, every trip I went on, I was thinking, how do I tackle this differently? So I'm in Venice, and I'm like, I don't want to just make another tourist video. Like, hey, I'm in Venice. This is cool. Yeah, I was like, what is there an issue here that I could talk about? And I was like, okay, like Venice is sinking. So that was my foray into like doing YouTube and making those type of videos. Power Video, I was then doing all these different type of YouTube videos. They would do okay. Like, I didn't understand how YouTube kind of worked. I just wanted to make these cool little mini docs that I thought were entertaining, but there wasn't really any of like the strategy behind it. Yeah. I was friends with quite a few people in the space, but it wasn't my priority at the time.
You're quite good at networking as well. And I think like when I first met you, I was like, how is this dude? Because our numbers weren't massively different on Instagram, and you weren't. You didn't have big numbers on YouTube, and I had no idea what the hell was happening on Snapchat. But I was looking at you going, how is this guy working with Joby and Manfrotto? And he's just cruising about doing Snapchats. He's not like, your numbers weren't huge in Instagram. I was really confused. And what I've grown to know is it's your approach to it.
Yeah.
It's very organized. There's a real business mind to it. It's quite mature. First, like, what age are you? 29, 28?
29, yeah, 29.
So, fucking nearly 10 years younger than me. Shit the bed. Or you should just remove that question from this entire podcast. But like, the way you structure it is, and I've learned a lot about you in these last few days. Like, you're very, very business oriented. That you're not. I guess like I struggle a lot with imposter syndrome, and I think that's because what I do now is kind of always what I'd aim to do. So I always feel like I'm not good enough or shouldn't be there. So I end up tripping myself up. But you've come from a creative aspect in a different place. You've come from music. So you're bringing creativity and ideas and thought, but you're sort of applying it to a medium that you hadn't ever really, I guess, considered. So maybe you're not looking at it the same way. Is that fair to say, or is it?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's fair. I guess I just didn't. Yeah, like I've never really, like, I make a video, I move on to the next one. Like I critique it myself. I'm like, okay, this could be better. I can do that. But I don't ever really stop to think, should I be doing this or whatever? Like, that's what I really liked about Snapchat and YouTube, is that there is no barrier, right? There's nobody saying you can or can't do this, right? Like, I was invited to go to these places to film and watch how people report on these stories. And I was like, okay, well, I've done that. I've got experience from that. Like, move on to the next thing. Like, I think when we met, I had also just been invited to like a Red Bull summit, where they brought like 10 YouTubers in, to pitch shows to them, to make a creator-led show for Red Bull. I was by far I think I had like, I don't know, maybe just 1,000 subscribers, maybe a couple of thousand subscribers. Yeah. And there was people there like million plus, whatever. I'm like, why am I in this room? But what I found is like, and I've always kind of thought this, like, it's, okay, numbers is something, but they're vanity metrics. Yeah, like, totally. I'm always thinking long term. Yeah. I'm not looking for like that instant hit of what it is. Like, what is the longer term thing? And out of the Red Bull thing, I think what I can't speak for the others, but I think what I took the most was, because my YouTube channel was like, I would just post sporadically. I was like quite into just soaking up how Red Bull make productions, right?
Yeah.
And I was about to maybe have an opportunity to have a series with them.
Yeah.
So I wanted to learn as much as possible.
Okay, so the Red Bull thing is kind of
Yep.
interesting because when I'd met you, you were doing all those things. And then the Red Bull was the first time where I was like, fuck this dude. This guy's taking this a bit more serious than I was giving him credit for. And I met you in London for a pint. And you were telling me about it. And you were like, this is what we're doing. We're proposing this idea. And I was like, hold on a second here. You're approaching Red Bull and making a document, like a multi-series documentary. And you were just chatting about it like it was like you were doing something for a car dealership.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, fucking hold on a second. And you were like, yeah, I'm going to travel all over the world, do these things. And it was you and Angela together, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And
helped out.
we're sitting in this like pub in London. I walked out of that going, what the fuck is happening here? How have I? So Red Bull Origins.
Yeah,
So
that was the show.
that was the first time. I mean, that was the first time I thought you're doing something bigger than what we're all doing fucking around on Instagram and Snapchat. So, like, what was that? And
Yeah.
where did that? How do you think that's changed you? Like,
Yeah, that was a big change because I think I was introduced to the Red Bull guys around the time I was going on those reporting trips in the January, and we did like a video together in like Sweden, and they were then asking me like, hey, what do you want to do? And I'm like, oh, I'm really into this like doc thing, and I want to make docs, but I can only do it on YouTube because I'm like, I can only do this on YouTube because I kind of know YouTube. I can't go anywhere else and do this. Like, and I can do it myself. So Red Bull approached me about this series, and then it went through like loads of development. I had to like learn how to build like a pitch deck for a series, like which included what the show was going to be like, what cameras we're going to use, what's the feel going to be, what are the potential options going to be, who's going to be the crew. I had to make a budget. I was like, I don't know how to make a budget for like to take like a bunch of people around the freaking world to make.
and you were
this
taking the
series.
athletes as well. This is what
Yeah,
was so
yeah, so
funny.
we
You
took
were
an athlete as
organizing
well.
the athletes to go and do and you were doing like fencing, surfing.
Yeah. So
snowboarding or
the
something.
concept of the show was like diving into the origins of extreme sports and exploring the cultures behind them. So it was less like Red Bull is all like these amazing big stunts and stuff. I wanted to look at the people behind it and how that affected them. And it was me on camera and an athlete. So the pilot was surfing in Hawaii. We went and spoke to a bunch of like people in Hawaii about like Polynesian culture. We did one on fencing, another on skiing that we did up in the Arctic, a parkour episode, and yeah, what they wanted from this show was a creator-led show. So they're like, we want it to be like Red Bull, but we want it to be a YouTube series. And it feels like YouTube. So I was like, okay. So they're like, take whatever cameras you want. I was like, okay, well, it'll be me, like a cinematographer, like one of their producers, like a local fixer, and an athlete. So it's like 4 or 5 of us on a shoot. And it was like these 10, 15 minutes pieces. We just kind of like interview people. There's some sport action. Like I try to learn the sport. And the biggest thing from that was like learning about pre-production. And because it's with Red Bull, you're working with a company now that is like, you need licenses for everything. You want to fly a drone in Hawaii? Well, you need a license for that. Like you need someone who's registered to do that. You need to hire somebody who can I can't go into like swim in a pipeline in Hawaii and try to film in there these freaking 20-foot waves. I need somebody who can do that. I need to find a fixer in the Arctic. How do I do that? Like all these things, I was like, oh, this is insane. So I learned a lot of pre-production skills, and then I was like, I can do the video filming, and I can do the editing, and I can do the sound design. So I can do all that.
You're a journo and a film.
Yeah, so I was like, I can try all these things. And like, I took on quite a lot of that. Like I was directing, hosting, editing, sound, all that. I remember somebody once said, so have you got budget to a studio to do the voiceover? I was like, what do you mean budget for a studio?
I've got a duvet.
Yeah, I was like, I've got a
microphone in
duvet
my
and I can
cupboard.
do it under my bed. And they're like, really? Is that how you did the last one? I was like, yeah. It's like, I don't need
that's how we do
run
it
and
here.
gun. I've been so run and gun all my life, or like in what I do with filmmaking. So that taught me to work with people, manage a team, budgeting, like a lot of that.
I'm mostly project management, I imagine. Like you're dealing with this big. This is
Yeah.
more than just you walking around a place filming yourself talking. There's a whole and there's
sure.
expectations and there's other people's money, and I think that's a key thing that so
Yep.
many people forget about. It's one thing to be able to shoot your own content when it's just your opinion,
Yep.
and the only person held accountable is you. But when you're sitting here and you're speaking not only for you, but you're speaking for these athletes, you're speaking for Red Bull,
Yep.
and they've given you money to do it. The stakes are so much higher.
So they need to see a shot list before you go. They want to see a working script.
Yeah.
Like the producer who came with me, luckily, like we've worked together since I started working at Red Bull, and he's like one of my closest friends now. He was amazing to have on the ground because like he could have that. He had that like Red Bull eyes, like we need to do X, Y, and Z. So he was good at like kind of like holding my hand through this process. But yeah, it was like making sure all these things are aligned. So we can do this. And like I guess like the benefit of working on something like that, when you're hiring, you're like, oh, we're hiring for Red Bull. Like people like you get a good caliber of people that you can bring on board.
Yeah,
for
people
that
are taking
project.
that serious.
Yeah.
And it all, I mean, it looked good. I don't think I watched all the episodes, but I watched a bunch of them. And I remember when I saw the first one pop up, I was like, this is just a vlog.
Yeah.
How has he managed to wangle this? He's just doing a vlog
Yeah.
and he's doing some interviews. And only as I watched more of that and I started to watch the fault line stuff, I was like I understood it. Because when I saw you do it, I'll be honest, there was a little bit of envy in me because I was like, fuck, this is exactly what I have been trying to do in Northern Ireland, find a way to put me on camera because I don't know if you're the same, but sometimes I find it's easier for me just to get on camera and say what I need to say because I can explain it quite quickly. And sometimes when you're asking other people, you're like, you're trying to get your vision into their head and then try to put words in their mouth without doing it. So when you did that, I was like, fuck, he's just vlogged this. Like this is kind of obvious and kind of genius at the same time.
It was like taking those vlog elements of like the Casey Neistat world, right, and mixing it with like an explainer, and like we did a lot of interviews for those shows, and like people give really good sound bites, but like I want to explain how like Polynesians came to Hawaii, and like having some guy say that in their own words doesn't always work. I need to make it like a smooth narrative for YouTube. So yeah, that's where like hosting it came in, and it's just like what I'd always done. So I just like,
and it
felt
turns out
comfortable
that
doing
it's
it.
actually kind of the way the whole industry was going.
Yeah.
I mean, like if you look at it now, there's so much like I guess independent journalism on things like YouTube. Like I get most of my information on all topics from YouTube, and it's independent journalists.
Leading on from that, I then started making docs for some other YouTube channels. So this is where I'm like honing all my YouTube skills. I'm like, okay, X video didn't perform super well. Okay, I think it's the title and thumbnail. Like the intro was super long. How do we change this? So I had more opportunities to do more reporting stuff, and I was and another big piece I did was in Lebanon. I pitched this.
So this wasn't part of the Red
No.
So standalone. Okay.
Yeah, so after, or maybe along the same time, I'm not sure, like, we filmed all that during the pandemic. Or, like, we filmed the pilot before the pandemic. I think the show then got greenlit the week before the pandemic went off.
Oh, shit. So we must have been talking, like, end of 2019.
Yeah, we were talking then. We shot the first episode of Origins in January 2020. It went out in, like, April, but got greenlit in March for a series, and then like the pandemic hit. So we made the rest in lockdown. The last one took like a year and a bit to come out. And I started making some docs for some other YouTube channels, and I pitched the idea of going to Lebanon to cover the waste crisis. I mean, there's like lots of issues going on in Lebanon, but that then pushed me more to like, I want to like serious topics, you know, but like finding a way to like explain this.
And it's respectful and accurate, but also fitting into the style of YouTube.
Yeah, and I had a friend who lived in Lebanon, and like he was, and like I think the year before they had that massive explosion in Beirut. I don't know if you saw it, when like the port.
Oh yeah.
Like it was like insane, and I'd been hearing all this stuff, and I was like, okay, I want to go tell this story, and so having the confidence to do that, and again, that was like
the audacity as well.
The audacity to go and do something like that. Yes, I can do this. Like, I've had no prior experience. Send me out to do this by myself. Like, in that case, I had like a story editor.
Yeah.
But I was on the ground, just me and my two friends who were fixers out there. And yeah, like, I mean, we had some interesting situations there. with drones.
Yeah, you flying the drone the other day in Belfast near the peace lines, and I was like, it's a sketchy
yeah.
place to be flying a drone. And he was like, I've got a story for you about a drone. Flying through a prison.
I landed my drone in a military base.
On purpose?
No,
Oh,
not on
right.
purpose. I wasn't flying. But it almost got shot down, and we were detained for the evening by like the Lebanese equivalent. This is what they thought. So it was like, this is like my third day in Lebanon. Basically, the infrastructure of how they control a lot of sectors of government have fallen apart. And the waste management was one of them. So waste is like a really big issue. And a way that they try to hide it is by building these piles of trash, and they cover them in soil. And then grass grows out of them. Yeah. These massive mounds. They look like hills. My friend was on the phone to one of his friends, and she was like, does he want to see the mountain of trash?
Obviously.
And I was like, yes, I want to see the mountain of trash. That is like the clearest visual evidence of like what is happening here. On the Sunday night, we leave this family dinner early so we can go film this trash before sunset. And we're like, we'll be back for dessert.
You want to film the trash at Golden Hour.
In this place called this
tourist video.
Yeah, and you know how it is. We're flying today at golden hour, trying to get all the shots. We see this mountain of trash. We park up, jump out the car. We take up the drones. I see the trash. I'm getting the shots. What ends up happening is somebody from this waste dump comes out and is like, hey, I'm going to call the police. You need to land your drones. And I was like, okay, fine. We need to land them. It's like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fly my drone like down the road. It looks empty, and I'm just going to land it in a bush, and we'll go pick it up afterwards, because there's no way I'm losing this footage. So I do that. I'm trying to land this drone for like 5 minutes, and then we go past a military checkpoint. They like pull us out. The sun is now setting. Nobody there speaks English. It's getting very dark, and it turns out like, yeah, I landed the drone outside this military base, and they were about to shoot it down. And it was not good from there. Yeah, they think like we're spying on them. And on the DJI map,
were a bit, but not on them, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to get IDs. I have no idea what's going to happen. Luckily, we're in a part of, I don't want to get into the politics of Lebanon, but we're in a part, like if we were in the south, this would have been much, much worse.
This would be a Zoom call right now from prison.
Probably not even that.
All right.
You'd be on
a milk bottle.
So yeah, this is like, and I'm like, okay, damn it. Like, this is not good. And I've got these guys involved, right? Like, their families are waiting for us. And eventually they take us into the base, and they're like, okay, like, there's a guy that speaks English. He's like, we understand what's happening. We need to talk to our superiors. Anyway, yeah, we eventually got the drone back, and it was just like a weird, surreal thing. And now I have like a contact for like a corrupt official in Lebanon.
So if you're looking to smuggle anything through Lebanon, chat
to
Andy. All right, so you've done all this, and you've got kind of serious at this, and then you're sitting there thinking, from an outsider point of view, I saw you start to push into a YouTube channel called Docs by Andy, and this felt like you sort of trying to find a place to house all these docs.
Yeah, this was an
and
Instagram
creating
account.
This was an Instagram account, but it was never a YouTube page. This was just an Instagram account to share the YouTube thing. So this was your stepping stone, where you were starting to find a place to house all that and distribute it and show people about it.
Yeah, I was making like these Lebanon pieces, and then I went to Calais to make a piece about refugees crossing the British Channel and policies on that with the government, and that was kind of like on my channel. And I was like, okay, I'm now making these more like deeper mini docs, if you call them that. And I like the behind the scenes, and I want to share that. So I just like made this Instagram account to do that.
Oh, so it was made for BTS then, yeah?
Yeah, it was all like BTS stuff, but I called it that because I thought like I was making mini docs or whatever. And I would say this was like the transition to Faultline. Because I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I knew I like for example, I was making videos on Lebanon waste crisis, then I'm making videos on like refugees crossing the British Channel, and a video on tiles in Portugal, like that have been stolen off walls. Very varied topics, and that doesn't work on YouTube. You need a niche, and you need to know exactly what you're going into. And I think it was around like February last year that I sat down with a friend who runs a YouTube channel who's like, your thing is geography. It's like human geography and how people are affected by parts of the world. And as soon as he said that, it was like, yeah, you're so right. And like it was like that light bulb moment
Yeah.
where I was like, I already have a ton of ideas what to do, because now I can look at it through the lens of geography,
Okay.
as the wider topic. And then I was like, okay, now I think I can focus on a YouTube channel. So it was like a lot of years of just testing out, having the opportunity to work on productions, be on the ground. And then that was something that I was like, okay, this is something that I think is a little bit unique in like this geography sphere on YouTube, is that there aren't too many people who can run out on the ground and make these type of pieces, right?
Yeah, and there's a lot of work going into the videos you're doing as well. Like they are, I mean, I was trying to siphon out of it information as to how you do some of them. There's a lot of research and a lot of planning that goes into it. I think that's kind of what I've learned from you the last couple of days is sometimes I'm sitting there going, fuck, why didn't that video get views? And it's because 9 times out of 10, I don't put any effort into my title and thumbnails. And you've explained to me about how much effort goes into it. And you've got a team of 5 people.
Yep.
And you've got anything from a producer to project managers.
Project
you've got
manager, a
editors.
couple of writers, editor, people who help with thumbnails. Because I knew when I was starting Faultline that I couldn't do this by myself. Like, it's okay when I'm like doing the Lebanon piece, I'm being commissioned to make that. That's my only focus.
Okay.
But when we have to make weekly or bi-weekly videos, I can't do that by myself.
Do you think creating the brand, the team, the whatever you want to call it, the fault line, the thing, do you think that allowed you to step away from any worries or concerns from a personal level? Because it's no longer Andy Burgess filming stuff. It's now a very clear brand or business with a very clear direction, and you might still be hosting it.
Yep.
But do you feel it's easier for you to produce the sort of content, or at least have a direction and stick to a direction? Is that easier having something like Faultline than it would be if you were trying to do it by yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Like, part of it was like my personal brand, or whatever you want to call it, like, will probably change a lot. I mean, it's changed a lot since I was doing Snapchat. And Faultline, I want it to grow more than myself.
Okay.
I'm always going to be involved, but I want there to be a point where, like, hey, maybe we bring on hosts that can tell stories that I can't particularly do. I'm not the right person to do that. But Faultline is the place to do that, because it's like a wider banner. And yeah, I guess it does give you it's a clean slate. That's kind of how I looked at it. Like, I went back and forth I was like, I already have a YouTube channel with like 7,000 subscribers and it's monetized. But I was like, no, I'm just going to start new and start fresh. So
that
yeah,
right
that
there.
was
Sorry to interject there, but
Please.
that whole thing, when you've got, I think when you've got followers or subscribers, whatever that is, and they're not huge, there's this real worry, isn't it, of like not using it or wasting it or losing it even. So like you're sitting there with 7,000 subscribers. That's huge for me, but that's actually nothing in the bigger scheme of YouTube. So you're better almost sometimes in that thing just to start something new or break the wrist and walk away. You know, try a different thing, take a different approach, and don't be too precious about it, because that could almost be the thing that hinders your growth going forward.
Yeah, and not to get too deep in the weeds of how YouTube and the algorithm works, but like, they're like different audiences. Like, people subscribe to me for a lot of different reasons. I mean, maybe when I announced Faultline, maybe I think like 100 people, maybe 200 people jumped over before we launched the video.
Wow.
But it wasn't like a massive move. And like, we're still a very small channel in like terms of YouTube. We just crossed like 50,000 subscribers, but like, we've been doing it for like 9 months, and like, that is like a great achievement.
Really good,
I think
like,
it took us like 2 months to hit 1,000, and then it took us another, and then it just kind of doubles and doubles, and then like a couple of weeks maybe to hit 2,000.
Okay.
Because we kind of had this plan and laid it out. So it's what a lot of people say to me about Faultline. They're like, oh, this new channel, it all looks produced and it's so well made. But you're new.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I've been doing this for a long time, and I kind of, you were saying earlier, there is like a business behind it because I'm understanding how to make these type of videos.
Yeah.
Like, but the creativity and passion I've had for so long, I've wanted to make these type of videos, and now I'm trying to find a way to blend that in with like the business of YouTube. Like, how do I sustain making these mini docs?
Yeah. And I think like some context for anybody listening or watching, we've been traveling around for 2 days around Northern Ireland, filming this doc around like Northern Ireland Protocol and the Windsor framework and stuff. And the whole time, while Andy's had a basic shot list of what he's trying to achieve and locations he'd like to go to, and I'm sort of helping him logistically with that. But the entire time, he's going back and forth with his team back home. He's sending voice messages, he's updating spreadsheets and to-do lists and sending over rushes and sending over, like he's transcribing all the stuff that he's filming and sending that over to them. And it's constant. There's communicate, and then they're coming back going, okay, brilliant, that's good. We feel like you could really delve into this little bit or add this bit or say this sentence, or could you find somebody to give us an input into this? I'm watching you going, fuck, I do just spray my way through most things when I'm doing my own videos. So there is a serious level of maturity in what you're doing. And I think that's what interested me from these early days of just a fella doing some Snapchat and getting stoked on 100 views to now, what, 10 years later? Is that far? 8 years there?
Maybe like seven.
But
yeah, it's I don't know, getting close to a decade.
So you're now, and do you feel that are you aware of that maturity level? Do you feel like you've got it, or is it just all sort of rolled into one?
Yes, but it does feel like, for sure. But it does feel like that was not very long ago.
Yeah.
Like I think I have a problem of not always looking back on things and being like, oh wow, that was a big thing. Like the Red Bull thing, like, well, you're so like just nonchalant about that.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of in it and I'm just rolling with it. But yeah, if you told me in 2016 I would have produced a show with Red Bull and now I'm running this channel managing people, I'd be like, well, what are you on about?
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I just like, my biggest thing is I want to make as many videos as possible about these topics that like how they affect people around the world and share human stories. And I just know from working within these teams that I need to find out what my weaknesses are and have other people help with those points. Yeah. Like ideally, I would love to just be on the ground reporting, speaking to people all the time. And like be working on like what the stories are.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate that I've started to find people that are like really good at helping build that infrastructure. Like somebody who can help like project manage that, and people who are like actually journalists by trade who can help like research and like build out these stories that we want to tell. Yeah. So yeah, I really see it as like a collaborative thing. And I'm just we're still learning like all the time and like trying to make these things better. But yeah, it's just I admire the people that can do it by themselves, and you definitely can. Like so many YouTubers have just built successful channels. It's amazing. I just know that the work that we're trying to do and what we want to build is like, it takes more than me. And
I think that's a key thing for anybody going into it. It's a very hard thing to do, and I think YouTube especially, or most social medias, have pushed people into this concept that they're the center of the attention. And there's a time where that needs to happen, but you do need to know when you need to ask for help or employ someone who's better than you at something, because that's the only way to make it better. And
yeah, for sure. And like, I want to still be doing this in like 5-10 years time. Like I have a whole plan for Faultline of where I want it to go. So I am already like thinking long term. Yeah. Like the main thing about having all like the stuff you saw about like how we're making these stories and like the production, the main thing is like when we have a video that does perhaps really like propel us to the next level, I want to be ready for that, and I want to have the infrastructure around us so we can continue making videos regularly without burning out. We can all still enjoy like our lives outside of work, but also be making really great, compelling stories.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough. So what do you think is the biggest learning experience or learning curve? Or what's one really important lesson you think you've learned from way back when you started Snapchat 7 years ago to now where you're basically Andy Attenborough?
Oh my, Andy Attenborough. No.
So like,
you don't like,
have you learned anything?
Have I learned anything? I've learned a couple of things, but you don't really need permission. You don't need to be out there waiting for somebody to be like, oh, that's you can or can't do this.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems
just have the audacity and do it. I think that's a fucking, but that is a really key thing, because there are a lot of people who feel like you have to go through these steps and stages, and you have to tick these boxes to do it. But with the right drive and determination, and balls.
Yeah, and nobody's telling, like, we were having this conversation earlier about titles and like what they are. Like, it took me a long time to be like, oh, I'm a filmmaker.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm struggling now with like, am I a journalist or what? Like,
You're happy with that filmmaker one now.
yeah, I've settled into that because I've done like filmmaking work and stuff. But like, nobody was going to be out there to give me that title. You know, like, I don't just start doing something. Oh, now you're a filmmaker. It's like, okay, just keep doing it and find what you really enjoy about it. And like, if you're curious enough about that process, and I think because how I came into it, I'm like, well, how do you do that? And how do I do this? That's just like my whole thing. I'm always like wanting to learn how to do this better. And like earlier, I was like, so what camera setting have you got there? And like, what are you doing there? How are you editing that? Just like all these bits all the time. Yeah, I think I gave you something there.
No, that was good. I was going to ask you if you had one tip for anybody getting into it, but I think you fucking answered it there with
there we go.
You don't need permission. So if people need to find you on Don't Go to Docs by Andy, if they want to find you on Instagram or the YouTubes.
Yeah, just like on YouTube, Faultline. I think Faultline videos is the URL. Just type in Faultline, it will come up. Again, we're on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Discord.
On Snapchat?
And we are on Snapchat, but we don't use it. Yeah, RIP Snapchat. We are on Snapchat.
Yeah.
Faultline
Probably
TV.
on Vine as well. Yeah.
Oh, no. God, come on, Snapchat's still going. And then, if you want to follow me, just on Instagram, Andy Burgess. Probably the best way. Or TikTok. I'm kind of into TikTok.
There you go. That was good.
But Faultline, that's the one.
Yeah, no, go check it out. Like, it is awesome. Like, when you see the effort going into the videos and also the array of them. And I like that they're nothing to do with any other stuff I see. You know, I think like, and that was kind of really interesting when you and I first started talking about, I like that you were just doing your own thing and you kind of weren't interested in that world that I definitely get sucked into as being someone who's I'm not into cameras, but I get sucked into that world.
Oh man,
and it's a very narrow channel to go down, and you just kind of do your own thing on the side, which I always have admired and found kind of interesting. So thank you very much for sitting down and chatting, but this has been good crack. And I enjoyed that. That was good fun. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Go and check out Andy's channels, and see you later.
Thanks.
Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better.